What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? The goal is to showcase more spaces other than New York. I'm wanting to show, vegan as a lifestyle because it's not just about us eating. It's about just how we are going through day by day and the things because we have vegan fashion, we have vegan beauty brands, we have so many things. So I really want to showcase that this season because we live in an abundance and you can live in an abundance without harming anyone. So I'm super excited about that. So if you get an opportunity, go on over to YouTube and, subscribe, binge watch the first 3 seasons. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm really loving this series this month where we're celebrating women because women, I wouldn't want to be anything else but a woman because we give life and we set the tone for how things are going to go. So I'm super excited about this series. I'm super excited by the different women that we will be speaking with. And yeah, that's what we have going on today. I hope everyone is living great. We've gotten our first burst of summer. Yesterday it was freezing, snow everywhere. And today it's like it never even happened. So I'm super. There's Kimberly right now. Yes, indeed. You just have to request to come in and then I can bring you in. Let me see. Yes, just request to come in. I'm super excited. Hi. Hi. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are
Hello,
you?
hello.
You look great.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I look a crazy hot mess, but that's wonderful. I'm glad you
Oh,
think so.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you so much for taking time out to be on the show.
Yes.
I have been following you and I just love the spice. Love the spice. I love, you
Of the
taking
color.
authenticity in this vegan space, and
Yes.
showing how much personality we have when we don't eat animals.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started because I know that you're super busy. I'm Angela Yvonne. I am the host of VeganPopEats. For those of you who don't know, we are trying to change the perception of living in plant-based life through conversations, cuisine, and conscious living. And today we have Kimberly Renee. And I want to let y'all know that if you're not following her, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I love telling people people's stats because of the fact I need them to understand that they're in the midst of greatness. So you are the founder of Might Be Vegan. You are a self-taught chef. You're the founder of the award-winning hunger relief program, Food Love Might Be Vegan. You're responsible for the first and only vegan tailgate in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, so I don't know if it's the only now, but it's the only one that I know of that was at the Super Bowl. There hadn't been one of that size at the time, especially not for free.
We're going to say it's it because I ain't heard of it except for you. So they need to let somebody know because
yes. Yeah, there was some, I think Dopest Chef just chimed in. She was there. This was when the Super Bowl, I can't remember what year it was. Anyway, when it was in Atlanta that year.
I love Atlanta. Atlanta is very close to my heart. And before we get into it, I didn't know you was an Aggie.
Yes. Is you an Aggie too, sis?
Girl, I was there for one semester. Partial. Okay. Because I knew I wasn't about the Aggie life, but I was there for homecoming. I went to
absolutely. Everybody is there for homecoming.
Yeah, I went to school at University of North Carolina at Pembroke because I knew that's not for the weary.
Not for the weird girl.
For the weird. I wanted to graduate. I had to give my mom a piece of paper.
Yes, because it can be distracting.
It wouldn't have been accomplished at A&T. And you are a fierce advocate for social justice. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am glad to be here.
I just want to tell you that I love your delivery. I love your passion for showing up unapologetically yourself in this space. And I love that you give people fever. Like your series, Brands Behaving Badly. I just want to know how do you feel about the kickback when you are showing receipts? Because during
you know what? It's interesting because the feedback can be all over the place. Like sometimes you'll get creators who are like, girl, oh my God, that happened to me. I feel so empowered. And girl, I've also had like brands get mad. I've had CEOs get mad. And when I mean mad, I mean like flip the hair, don't you come, like, I mean mad. But I'm like, here's the thing, like I'm not saying that you as an owner are a bad person. What I am saying is there's an opportunity here for you to treat people better. Yeah. And instead of being open to that and saying, you know what, let us consider that. You know, that's not something that we had thought through. You know, we thought maybe content creators just really loved getting free things. But now that we're hearing this, maybe we can make some changes. You know, it might be gradual because we've got to get more budget in place, whatever. Right. But the point being, there should be a conversation and an openness when I am saying here's where you are exploiting people.
Right. Right.
Because I got a whole other one that I'm about to come out with soon that I didn't even expect, child. I didn't expect. I was like,
are you about to give me an exclusive?
It's not, I can't do it. I can't tell you yet.
But I can't say it yet. I can, like, girl.
But when I tell you, because here's the thing. So like, I can't be bought.
Right.
And that's the thing about me. Like, if I have worked with the brand and that brand comes back around and it did some shady stuff, I'll be like, okay, listen, y'all. So they hired me, but let me tell you something. You know what I mean? Because for me, integrity is like the bottom line for me. Integrity is That's it. So if I find out something about a brand, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna tell you. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's important that, especially people of color, because our creativity has been stolen from us
Yes.
since we got here, that our compensation is past due. We're in the red, boo. You know what I'm saying? So like when I charge for brands, I charge you extra just because I'm Black.
Just
Period.
because I'm Black.
Because I'm Black. Because at the end of the day, like we already negative. You already owe me taxes. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're here. So I will catch my reparations some kind of way, and it will be by giving a, this is the extra, this is your tax. And I know not everybody can be okay with that. They were like, yeah, but that's not fair. Nothing is fair. Right? It wasn't fair that we were brought here without our consent. That wasn't fair. It wasn't fair that we had to deal with Jim Crow. That wasn't fair. It wasn't fair that we're still having to deal with these issues of oppression and all of that. And y'all sit around and look at us like, racism is dead. Since when? Since when? Y'all built this system. Girl, see, I'm fired up. I was doing some research the other day around some political stuff. And in Georgia's my state, I was looking at the number of full-on KKK leaders that were governors of our state. Back to back to back to back.
What people don't, like Georgia, like I used to live in Atlanta. I used to live in Buckhead, and I love Atlanta. I love seeing our faces. That is what is, driving all of us to want to come back and live and be there, because that's definitely a bonus. You see all of our faces, we're thriving, we're getting these houses, we're living our bougie life. But you roll up into Gwinnett County,
girl, there's two types of Georgia. There's Atlanta, and then there's Georgia.
you try being up in Gwinnett County when you're not supposed to be over there.
Any other county other than Fulton, okay?
Carter Boulevard, certain time, what? The police have they taking names, and they are not even playing with you.
But the point being that we have this long history of racist men building racist policies. Yeah. And the fact that we are ignoring that, and that's not just in Georgia, right? So in all of the work that I am doing, it is always centered in justice, whether we're talking about justice for animals, justice for humans, justice, period. It's always about accessibility and justice. And at the end of the day, there's something, I cannot wait to share this. So everybody who's listening right now, you know that something's coming, and it's going to come quick because I'm fired up and I'm about to produce the whole video tonight.
Yes.
But it's one of those places where it's another brand that decided to give me an award, and then they act like I'm not going to pay attention to what they do. You should have got it together before you came to me, because I will always tell the truth. And I will always call brands out for the way that they take advantage of people, including creators. And so this is one of those moments. So I know we was talking about veganism, but
no, I mean, it's an open floor, because I'm wanting to know, how did you get in this space of being fired up about, social injustice? Because I kind of feel like I wish I would have spoke to you during Black History Month, because that's totally my wheelhouse. Because in my opinion, I feel that we don't have enough people fired up, because we have too many people who are complacent because of how they're comfortable in their way of life. And if they were to be fired up, they're thinking more of what they would have to sacrifice versus what could be made better.
Right, exactly. So I think the thing that I can appreciate is not everybody is called to the same thing, right? Not everybody is going to be able to take on the mantle of being able to, or even have the wherewithal or the know-how to navigate, especially in the space that I do. Because I've seen a lot of people who be like, oh, I'm gonna call out a brand, I'm like, that's cute, and then what?
Right.
So you're gonna yell at them, and then what, they gonna do? Nothing? You know what I mean? Because part of what I do is, when I am calling out a brand, there is always a campaign in the background that is running to get them to actually make change. I'm actually having a conversation with them, because having been a marketer for my entire life, I understand what it means to want to run a business and have business goals and trying to get that done with as little as possible, and your manager not letting you get no more extra money. You got to make it happen. I get it. So because of that understanding, I can come in with a little bit more grace and say, hey, this is how you can approach it a little bit differently. This is what you can consider, right? Because not everything needs to be a call out. Sometimes it needs to be a call in. Sometimes it's got to be a little bit of both.
But
so when it comes to individuals who are like, oh, well, why aren't you fired up the way that I'm fired up? Well, I'm fired up when anytime somebody is being taken advantage of, but I've always been that way. I've always been considerate of other people who are not as fortunate or don't have the number of opportunities that I have, and speaking up for them.
right.
You know what I mean? So that's me. I'd appreciate anybody who's, connected if you participate by sharing. You know what I mean? Like, because the more attention, the more eyes we get on it, the more pressure we put on the brands themselves. So everybody can participate. It doesn't mean that everybody has to do it the same way.
So let me ask you a question. Do in your heart of hearts, do you feel like brands are completely ignorant, or do you feel that they know and they're just going to do what they can get away with? Because during I guess it was last year, there were a lot of like beauty brands who were calling out the people who, Black Lives Matter, everybody's blackening their screens and all these other things going on. But there was Sharon from Uoma, I think I'm saying her brand right. She was really going to task. Like, she was saying, oh, so you don't have any Black people, or you don't have any diversity. And she was literally saying that if they don't get it together, we should pull our dollars.
Right. Because at the end of the day, brands are focused on making money. That's what they are.
Right.
They are businesses. Their bottom line is to make money for themselves, to make their stakeholders happy. Right.
Right.
We are also their stakeholders. So because they can't make money without us giving them money.
True.
Right. So because of that, when we say this is not okay for us, then they should be able to move as we speak. The problem is so many people have, what's the word? They have taken advantage of cancel culture and made it, they don't value what it means to actually call someone out. Right. Because calling someone out for an injustice versus an inconvenience, when you call too many people out because you are inconvenienced, then the weight of it is lost. You dilute it.
Absolutely.
And I think especially white people,
yes,
they call out things and brands more often for inconveniences versus injustices. Because right. It's like, oh, well, this is what they did, so I'm gonna do it because I don't like that y'all didn't have this kind of what. You know what? You got to know when to use the tools in your arsenal. This is a customer service letter. Call customer service, dude. Like, this is not the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, when we're trying to change a system for the betterment of people who have been historically oppressed, then we need voices to come and talk about that. But when you have been inconvenienced because you don't like something, that's completely different. Like, we're not having the same conversation, but so often white people just want to be oppressed. Like, you are not oppressed. You know what I mean? Like, stop. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that we all have people that we can speak up for. We all have ways that we can speak up no matter what our color is, but we just have to know when to pull that card, and when it's time and when it's not. Everything has a season.
And with that being said, how would one be able to show up? Because a lot of responsibility comes with the charge that you're leading. Mm-hmm. And some of us are not built for that charge.
None of us are built for that. None of us are. Let me keep it real. Like, we should not be fighting for to be seen. We should not be fighting right. for our basic rights. We are not built for that. But we had to adapt for that. And I think that's why I spend so much time making sure that I take care of my mental health so that when I need to show up for this, I can. And I think because there is so much happening, there's so much uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety and fear, there's a whole lot going on. And so the work that I do, I try to be mindful of the asks that I have of people. And I try to keep them as simple as possible. So for me, putting pressure on a brand is about honestly sharing the content so more people can see it. If there's an opportunity to submit an email, we try to make it as simple as possible so everybody can do something small, so that you can feel like, you had a check, you can check something else and say I participated. But honestly, I encourage a lot of people just to unplug, disconnect, don't participate at all, because there's a thread of just negative news. So you got to find a way to know when you're participating to play in the game, and then other times when you need to pull away. You know, so I don't judge people who say I can't show up right now.
Right. So what gives you the red flag to, I guess, what was the catalyst for you to decide that, you know, I'm going to start getting these brands together? Like, what was, because
So it started accidentally, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because I had it was during the season. It was right after George Floyd had been murdered, and all these brands were like, yeah. Oh, this, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And I wasn't. I mean, I was engaged, but not really. Like, I wasn't really doing anything other than, you know, participating the same way that most people do. And so I had a conversation with one brand, because at that time I was doing a lot of work with Food Love. And so with Food Love, we were feeding families. Anybody who had a mailbox that was referred to us, we were sending them food. So I won't get into all that, but long story short, we needed money to make this happen. And so I had reached out prior to the murder of George Floyd. I had reached out to a lot of brands, told them what was going on. I was like, listen, Black people are dying at a higher rate. Latinx people are dying at a higher rate. Indigenous people are dying much even higher than this. We need to get them healthier food, because a lot of the reason they are dying because of COVID is because of pre-existing conditions. So we need to get them healthier food, because many of them don't have access. We need to talk about this injustice.
Right.
Pretty much they all ignored me. And I was like stressing out, because I knew that this was something that I needed to do, but pretty much no brand had said yes yet. Nobody had come off any money. And I was nervous, because I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. So after George Floyd was murdered, all the brands were like, oh, what do we do? Anti-racism, this is new for us. How do we show up? And I knew they had questions, and they were trying to figure it out. So I talked to the girl who was helping me, named Kelly, and I was like, Kelly, I want us to change our pitch. And I'm comfortable talking about anti-racism because I've done it many times before. I've, you know, spoken about it. I've, you know, trained, yada, yada. So I said, okay, well, what if I offer them a free consultation, and what they do instead is listen to what I have to say about Food Love? That's all I'm gonna ask. I'll give you a free consultation for 30 minutes, but I need you to hear what I got to say about Food Love. And so there was one brand in particular that was like, oh yeah, well, listen. And then when we got down to like getting ready to set the meeting up, they were like, oh, we don't need to talk to anybody about anti-racism or diversity. We're good. And I was like, And so that was the day that I was fired up, pretty much like I was today.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me make a video, because I feel like y'all need to say this, because that's when I started digging deeper and started doing research to understand, you know, how this brand is playing in the space at all. I went through their Instagram. They had the only Black people of color they had on their page were people in need. Those are the only people of color they had on their page. They also were funding alt-right stuff. They also had pretty much almost like no Black hires at all, pretty much none. And so I put that on there for the whole world to see. I was like, I mean, I want to play. Here you go. And I just put it out there. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just made the video, put it up. I didn't even have that many YouTube followers. But girl, when I tell you, I put that thing up at 3:00 in the morning, because that's how late it was when I finished it, because I was fired up and typing.
Right.
Put it out there. By noon, when I woke up, I had a message from their VP. And they were like, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I said, no, I didn't misunderstand. My video just got optimized on your brand name, and so now you're mad because anytime somebody look up your company, you see my video.
So when that happens, are the brands more like, okay, well, what can we do to get this video down? What do you want?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He tried to make me get the video down. I was like, no, thank you. I said, but what we can do is we can do a part 2 if you want to talk about this.
Right.
And so what I said to him, I said, listen, since this thing happened publicly, we need to have a public discussion.
Fair.
This is not going to be like you send an email, oh, I'm sorry, I take it down. That's no. So they agreed to go live with me. And when we sat down to go live, we sat down like this to go live. We were going to go live on my laptop and my cell phone. so I could record it and all that good stuff and then publish it. And we got there, we sat there, and he was going live on his personal account. And I was like, all of the people that's on here waiting, there's like a couple of hundred people sitting here looking at me and waiting for you to come on live on your brand.
Right.
Also, somebody was asking which company I'm discussing. This was Bob's Red Mill. So I was like,
Bob's Red Mill?
Girl, yes. You got to go to my YouTube and see the video. It's
Okay,
it's like one of my most watched videos. Like,
okay.
It's still getting views, even though that they have made changes. But prior to this, he was like, I never noticed how white our company was.
Okay.
He said, I never paid attention to the fact that we don't feature any people of color other than he was like, we never saw this until we talked to you. And that's the thing. Like, this man, I don't think had bad intention.
Okay.
What he had was poor perspective.
Okay.
And his poor perspective was a result of his environment. This is the reason that we have to.
Which it always.
Exactly. So his environment did not cultivate a man, a white man, who was thoughtful of other genders, other ethnic groups, other experiences. And so because of this video, he was able to say, okay, we need to make some adjustments. And they have. Several of my friends have gotten checks now from Bob's Red Mill, my brown friends, because they actually sat down and made changes. And the thing about it is, because I get so much negative feedback on my videos from the white people who have not had good experiences in, as far as diversity, or
it's always a few.
It's a lot.
I mean, but I'm saying there's always some kind of kickback because they don't want to. The things that you're saying are factual. It's not like you're just sitting here on a Wednesday and just was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this out here and see what they're doing. You can get the receipts, but
right. always have receipts. Always have receipts. So the thing that what people don't realize is that this company is based in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Now, part of what I talk about when I talk to brands about anti-racism and the role that they can play is that you have to look at not only your diversity in-house, you have to look at your community, you have to look at your industry and ask this question: how has my business, how has my industry perpetuated the oppression of people of color?
Right.
And now what can I do to ensure that it can no longer happen? So when you do that and you ask those questions about your business, when you ask that about your community, your neighborhood, all of those things, you're able to see things like Oregon, for example. Oregon had Black codes, Oregon had exclusionary codes that literally pushed Black people out of those states. Black people who stayed were abused, whipped, murdered for staying. So even though they were free people, they were forced out. Why is Oregon so white? Because of those exclusion laws. That is a historical note which tells us why Oregon is so white, why Bob's Red Mill is so white, and the reason why now you have to say, how do we address this? Okay, that means we got to go get some people, right? Because our ancestors murdered them out, forced them out. So what we need to do is create an opportunity and a space to bring them back. That's how you rectify it. And so this is why these conversations are so important, because it takes us outside of just looking at, oh, this company is so white. Why don't y'all just, you need to look at how we got here, why we got here, and then make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen again. So
but do you think people genuinely want to know that? Because for me, it's a hard pill to swallow that in 2022 that we're still having those discussions when, the receipts show that we have contributed enough. Like it, and it just boggles my mind that there's still people who have an issue. Like, for instance, they're not wanting history to be taught. They're not wanting certain things to be taught because they feel that once people know the truth, then the responsibility of changing it, or, you know, being held accountable, they're not wanting to be held accountable. Whereas
right, because they don't think they can be held accountable.
Right.
So there was a study done recently. I'm actually going to post a brief video about this, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, so you all will see it. But it talks about the thinking of white people in the South,
right,
as it relates to racism.
Okay.
And there were 3 ideas or ways that they think about racism. And one of those is the Jesus paid it all sort of situation, and I love all the people, and they can't see racism because they allow Jesus to be the blinder.
Or they have a black friend.
Jesus is their black friend, they just don't know it. The other is, you know, I understand that black people experience racism, but that ain't got to do with me. You know, like, I didn't do it. Right. That's another thought. But the other thought is, you just need to,
if you got their receipts, you would know that they were doing it.
Probably. The other thinking is, racism is not real. It happened before, and you just need to work hard. Like, you need to stop asking for handouts. So it's kind of like you interact with those kind of that thinking. The problem is, this is the old guard. They're teaching the new generations, and without critical race theory in education, where we can challenge these systems and ideas, then we're doomed to repeat the same thing over and over.
Right.
So, and I think that's the goal, right? The goal is to maintain whatever semblance of veiled white supremacy that they can, you know, and a lot of it just sits in political spaces. And sitting in a political space means it also sits in a business space, because we have to remember that it's businesses that fund politicians. Politicians ain't got no money. Businesses do. The business money that comes to them, whether they're making money from their stock portfolio, right. They're making money, however they're making money off of business. And they're making decisions for us based on business. And these business leaders, by and large, are white people. The ones that have the money that are donating. So that's why, for me, it's important when we talk about justice, we're not just talking about politics, we're talking about business. Because where the money is, where the money lives, that's what's funding the politicians.
Girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot. Girl, don't get me fired up, boy.
Girl, I can't wait for you. I have so much content that's about to come out. So hopefully everybody who's on here who is following me by now, if they're not already. But I have one that's going to talk about business, the intersection of business and politics. So I'm a little fired up for my next video.
Yeah.
Then I have another one that's coming out that's going to call out a brand that just gave me an award. You go be like, girl, how do you even? I'm like, yes, because this is not okay. And then I don't know. I got a lot coming out. I might do a video on the 3 types of racism in the South. We'll see.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, we'll see.
That would be really good, because I don't think people they don't even know. Some people just don't have any kind of idea. So I will definitely be watching that one if you drop that one. But yes. I want to talk a little bit about the things that you were doing for the community and in the vegan space. Yes. As we all know, we just, we're recovering from COVID, but Georgia apparently didn't have it, because every time I saw a video, y'all were in these streets.
In the streets.
Making me upset that I'm over here in prison in New York City, and y'all are popping it out there like, where the dollars at? And I'm like, well, did COVID not get to Atlanta?
Oh, wait, no, it did. Every friend that I know that's in Atlanta got COVID. Every friend. I didn't, because I wasn't there when it happened. But I refused. I was like, listen, my values do not intersect with y'all right now, so I'm just going to exit.
But during that time, COVID brought about awareness and about selfishness, tenacity, and things of that nature. But you started Food Love Might Be Vegan. What inspired that?
Yes. So, I was on the internet. I was watching, you know, we were consuming a lot of content at that point because, you know, most
Yeah.
people weren't working. There was a lot of stuff going on. And so I just saw there was so much news that were happening. A couple of things that I saw. One, that farmers were remulching their vegetables back into the ground because they didn't have anywhere for it to go because the schools were closed, restaurants were closed, all the stuff was closed. And I was sitting there like, wait, what? Then I saw all of these people, lines and lines upon people just trying to get food.
Yes.
You know, and they were just like miles of people lined up to get food. Then I saw the news about how COVID was impacting people of color in a different way. Like we were dying at 2, 3, 4 times the rate because of various reasons. A few of those included were diet-related preventable illnesses, so comorbidities, right? So I felt the weight of that, and I was like, "Oh, what can I do? Like, how can I help?" And at that time, I was staying with my mom. My mom has a lot of health issues that prevented me from wanting to like go outside and potentially bringing something back to her. I didn't want that to happen. So I was like, okay, how can I participate and stay in the house? So that's how Food Love by Might Be Vegan was created. It was a response to all of those things happening, and then considering the fact that there were some people who couldn't actually go to the food bank and get the food because they didn't have transportation. Because when you cut out the bus system, for some people, that's their only lifeline.
Yeah.
Or people who live so far away from those hubs that they couldn't get anything. Like we still have food deserts or food apartheid.
Yes,
Like
we
they
do.
still don't have fresh, healthy food. What about those people? What about the people who were being turned away because they were undocumented? And they
Yeah.
couldn't get food from the food bank. I was like, this is a hot mess. Because these people who are undocumented are working at the farms for us in many cases. Like these are our farm workers. And we're not taking care of them. Like they're the only ones taking care of us. Like, what is this? So the idea came to me and it wouldn't leave. Like it just, I felt I was dreaming about it.
Right.
Like I would wake up and it would just be like an urgency behind it. Like you need to do this now. Like I had this one dream that I was literally trying to get on a train, but I was about to miss it. And it was just like, I felt like, okay, you need to take advantage of this now. You need to do this now. So I did. And from day one, the vision was to create a national program that could feed anybody anywhere. And I'm like, I'm one person. How in the world am I going to feed anybody anywhere? Like it was just like the idea was just like so much bigger than me.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. And so I was pretty much screaming at the universe, screaming and crying, like, I don't know how y'all want me to do this thing. This don't make no sense to me. I don't have enough money to feed the whole world. I barely got enough money to feed me. I don't know what this is. Long story short, I created a plan, tested it with a friend of mine who's a social worker, and we built a system kind of in startup fashion. Like we kind of approached it like it was a business instead of like a nonprofit. We created like a startup. It was a lot of marketing technology, a lot of automation kind of like built into it, just something, because I'm a part-time wannabe hacker, you know, so put the stuff together and I was like, okay, let's try it out. We tested it with a few families because I reached out to her and I was like, hey, so do you have any families who are struggling to get food or don't have transportation? Like, what's up? And she was like, oh my God, yes. I was like, okay, cool. So we started the program and then it spread fast. Like we went from, you know, serving a few of my friends' my friends' clients to now we're serving anybody anywhere. And then we started to get brands to come on board. We started to get more money and then there you have it.
So has it expanded outside of Georgia yet or?
Oh, no. So it was a national program from day one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I tested it I was in North Carolina at the time. So I tested it in North Carolina with a friend of mine who went to the same college as me, who was a social worker. But from day one, we could feed anybody anywhere. So we fed people from Florida all the way up to Maine, across to California, because the providers of the food were, we took advantage of existing systems. Like we didn't make anything new. Right. We just became the connectors. So it's almost like if you can imagine, like right now, if you have an emergency. So like, let's say you're having a heart attack, what do?
You call 911.
Exactly. We don't have that for food. So
Right.
that's what I created.
Okay.
So when you have food and you're in need, it's like, boom, you pick up the phone, you be like, this is what I need. And then we find the people in your area that either can prepare it for you, or we find a national provider who can ship it to you. So it's the same idea. But the existing nonprofits require that you actually come to their hub. The
Right.
only way that you can get something on wheels is if you're a senior.
Right.
But what was happening is that there were so many people falling through the cracks. We ended up not just serving, wait, am I stuck?
Yeah, you froze a little bit. But go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Am
hear
I
you.
back? Okay. So we served people who were going through various medical treatments, people who were who couldn't leave the house because they were going through cancer treatment and they didn't want to be exposed to COVID because, bad idea for them. So we just found lots of marginalized people as we did this, and it was incredible. It was a year-long program, and what I'm hoping will happen, as we continue to talk about it, is that a nonprofit will say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Can you show us the behind the scenes of how this works, so that we can integrate it? Because I believe that we can solve hunger. I think we can solve it because we have enough food, we have enough waste to feed
Yeah.
everybody.
So
Especially if we're
how did you get them on board with it being plant-based? Because,
I didn't give them a choice though. You're not getting a choice. Now, if you want to get your own meat, I ain't gonna judge you. But you're gonna try these plants though.
You about to get these plants.
What they do after that wasn't on me.
Right.
But we sent them plant forward food. Everything was vegan. We didn't tell them that though.
Right.
Because I had some folks who just didn't understand the idea of veganism. They were like, well, I don't have people who are vegan on my client list. I'm like, do people eat vegetables? They were like, yeah.
That messes with my mind every time someone says that I don't eat vegan food. And I'm like, you don't eat apples? You don't eat grapes? French fries?
Nothing. I was like, okay, friend, okay, friend. So once they got that, they were like, oh, right. It's like, yeah. Especially when we're talking about in medicine, because the plant-based diet is critical for people who are dealing with various failing organs.
Yes.
So we were really popular among nurse practitioners and outpatient kind of facilities, people who were dealing with like kidney failure, things like that. And they could select custom things. They were like, okay, we can't have a lot of phosphorus in the diet because they're going through this, or they can't. We accept requests. We did all of that, but it was also a much more dignified way to get help. Yeah, because I know it can be awkward and uncomfortable to go literally stand in a line and hold your hand out.
Yeah.
But if it's coming to your house, you just go outside and get it. You know what I mean?
So
how
did your vegan journey start? Like what was the catalyst for you to get on board, and how long have you been vegan, or whatever you call yourself? Because nowadays they want to be plant forward. And I had an interview with Aris Latham, and he was like, either you're a vegetarian or you're not. The vegan is just the commercialized ways of saying whatever you need to say. But how did you get on your journey of, I no longer want to consume meat products, and how has it been thus far?
Yeah. So I'm going to say maybe 2017, I started dabbling. I think maybe 2017, 18. I don't really remember. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I know people have vegan anniversaries or whatever. I don't know. I don't count. It was at some point, it was before 2018, probably after 2016, somewhere in there, I started like playing around and be like, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. But honestly, I just had I knew that at some point I wanted to do less meat. I had given up pork when I was 17. I gave up beef when I was like 21. So I was only eating poultry and a little bit of seafood. Right. So when I went vegan fully, it was after I had kind of be like, oh, I'm gonna be vegan, oh, I'm gonna not be vegan, I'm gonna be it, I'm gonna be it, and I gone back and forth. And I had a cheese pizza, and I ate the whole pizza by myself. Don't judge me.
I won't judge because I do it.
And after I ate it, I felt drained. Like I just had the itis in a new kind of way. And I was like, you know what? This cheese ain't for me. This ain't for me. This ain't it. So I ended up giving cheese up after that. And then, you know, on this journey, been finding ways to kind of get that same kind of mouthfeel and flavor. But honestly, when you learn to season, you'll be fine. Because I think a lot of people don't want to give up cheese, but if you learn to season, you'll be fine.
That's everybody's kryptonite, because everybody's just like, oh, I could never. And then I can tell them where they can go get fabulous cheese and all this other stuff. And they're like, huh, yeah.
Yeah. Really? So the journey has been good. You know, I love cooking. And I think most people, you got to be honest about whether or not you like vegetables or you like cooking, because the journey is going to be different for you.
Right.
If you don't like vegetables or you don't like cooking. And you just got to be honest with that.
What is the most surprising thing that you've found on this journey? I love getting that type of information from people, because everything is something different to everyone whenever they're deciding to really be committed to this lifestyle, because people think that we live in a life of lack, and it's not.
Right. So I didn't realize how much I like mushrooms, but I think what was happening is that people don't season their mushrooms well.
Right.
Just like people don't season their chicken well. Okay. You know, everybody don't cook the same. And I didn't realize that I could deal with tofu, because I didn't like tofu. But what I realized is people don't season their tofu well. It really boils down to the seasoning. I'm telling you, everything boils down to seasoning. You like chicken, season something like chicken. You like pork, give something a smoke flavor. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always a way to get there. Because at the end of the day, nobody likes meat. Animals do.
Right.
Because they just rip right on into it. But us, we don't like meat. We like seasoning. Chicken. Have you ever had a plain piece of chicken with no seasoning? If you have, you will never have it again. Have you ever had a piece of pork with no seasoning? It is disgusting. Okay? It doesn't matter what you eat. Any kind of meat raw with nothing on it is disgusting. Absolutely. And if you like it, I know what kind of family you grew up in. Okay? So you just got to know. You know what I'm saying? You got to know how to season. You got to learn how to season. And it doesn't matter what it is. You make a carrot taste like a hot dog. You know what I'm saying? You make mushrooms taste like chicken. You can do whatever you want to do. Once you realize that at the bottom line, it's about seasoning. It is not about the meat.
So, Kimberly, what do you want your legacy to be? Because you just watching your journey and just learning more about you and the passion. What I really enjoy about you, from what I've, seen and stuff, I love how you are so unapologetically, and I guess it's a new word that I learned because I done used it about 4 times today. That you're so unapologetically passionate about being Black and making sure that we get what we deserve. Mm-hmm. So what do you want us to understand about the charge that you are taking? Because like we spoke about before, it's not for the weary, but it is for someone who truly wants to make a change. Mm-hmm. And is not afraid of sacrifice.
Yeah. So I would say for me, legacy for me is about leaving the world better than I left it. I mean, than I found it when I got here. So if that means changing the world for a few people or a lot of people, one of the things that one of my mentors taught me when I was, in my early 20s, she was like, 2 things she taught me. One, that you're not going to build Rome in a day. Meaning all the things that you want to do, you're not going to accomplish it all at once. Because when I was in my 20s, I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it all right now. And she was like, you might want to calm down, focus on being good at this. Once you got that, move to something else. And that was really good, helpful advice, because it helped me to focus. The other thing that she taught me was that if you want to make a big impact and you want to make a lot of money, you need to figure out how to help a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it changed my thinking to be like, okay, well, I'm actually passionate about helping people. So when I create programs, I always start with how can I do this and help the most people versus start thinking small. So my thinking is always the big versus the small. So when I started the Food Love program, it was like, how can we feed everybody? Not how
Right.
can we feed how can we feed the neighbors? So when I'm solving big problems, I'm always thinking about how do we go wide, and then once we figure out the why, then we can narrow it down. So when it comes to legacy, that's what I want people to remember me for, is challenging them, challenging brands, and hopefully making the world a little bit better than it was when I got here.
So in a perfect world, what would it look like to you?
What would what look like?
In a perfect world, what would it look like to you?
What's the it?
What would, if you could create, I guess, an environment?
Oh, what would the perfect world look like?
Yeah, what would the perfect,
Oh,
because of all the work that you're doing and all the different things that you're doing, what would a perfect world look like for you?
gotcha.
Because,
Yes.
some people might be like, well, I just want to be around a lot of Black people. Or some people might be like, well, I don't want to see any white people. But
Oh, I mean, I don't care. I want everyone to be more thoughtful of people, others,
yeah,
because I think that's what it boils down to, and why I do the work that I do. Um, the reason that I created Food Love is because there were people who were falling through the cracks. So we have systems that were not considerate of other people
yeah,
and considerate of their unique needs. Um, the same thing when it comes to calling out brands. We have brands that are not considering what they are doing to other people, or they're considering it and don't care. So I think my perfect world is where we are considerate of others when it comes to eating plants and not animals. It's about considering what your diet is doing to cows, chickens, and all of that. It
right.
was so funny because I was watching the show on Netflix the other day. It's called Life After Death with Tyler Henry, and
The media,
he
uh-huh.
was talking to this woman who had a friend pass away and also had a dog pass away. And the first thing that he connected with was the dog. And that was the first time, because I watch a lot of Medium content, okay? I
Right.
do. I do. So it was the first time that I had seen someone connect with an animal.
Mm,
And the first thought was, okay, was the animal talking? He was like, no, obviously not. He said, but animals are sentient beings. They have feelings, they have thoughts.
yeah.
And anything that passes on can still connect back to the physical world. They still have a being. They are still. And I was like, I ain't never really thought about that.
Right.
But I cannot imagine the number of animals that have hatred toward us.
Ooh,
You know
that's
what I
powerful.
mean?
That's
From, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, I mean, I don't know what people believe. I don't even know if people believe in that. But it's just an interesting idea, you know, that you have animals that have passed on who still have feelings and thoughts that we murder by the billions, you know?
yeah.
So I think it's important for us as a whole. I think a perfect world for me is people considering others, you know, considering their feelings, their experiences. And I think that would make all of us better.
Absolutely. Well, Kimberly, I want to tell you that I just think that you are so dope.
Oh, thank you.
You're so fly because for me, I'm not easily impressed. I'm not easily impressed because, certain characteristics and certain things about people make you a powerful entity. And when I watch the things that you do and when I hear the words that you say, you motivate me, you inspire me because, you are giving a voice to the people who may not know how to use their voice. You're also giving a voice to the people who may need to speak a little louder, because in order for us to be able to get change wherever we are, we have to be secure that whatever we are wanting to accomplish, it can be done. And when I listen to the things that you say, it's just, it's hard to find people in this space that are you know, super passionate about us. Because, you know, you through your work, I know that you've seen, well, you know, the brands will scurry because the minute that you start throwing the diversity word around, and especially in 2022, they know that that equates to missing money. So they will do whatever in their power so they won't be seen as one thing versus who they really are. And with you, I feel that with your message and the things that you're doing, like, you care about, you know, the things that are happening, but you also care that if that's what you're going to do, stand 10 toes down in it and rock
And
with
just
it.
let people know. Like, if you're going to be
Just let
racist, be
people
racist.
know.
Because I can respect that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know
Yeah,
people got opinions about Trump, but he was honest.
he
He was
was.
honest about who he was. And he showed up who he was. So you knew exactly who to deal with. So that meant that I could choose whether or not I wanted to engage with him. But what happens is these brands, businesses are psychopaths if they were humans, but they're not humans. But there are people behind that. And so that's who I want to talk to. I want to talk to the humans behind that are making the decisions and considering how their decisions are impacting other people. And
Absolutely.
that's the bottom line. That's my story.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoy you. And anybody who don't enjoy you, then that's something going on with what they got going
That's
on.
all. That's that. They don't. Everybody ain't gotta like me. That's okay though. It's all good.
But it's not even about liking you. It's about recognizing what the truth is. And I think for me, what's going on is that people don't want to be held responsible for what their truth is. Because you throw the racist word around, everyone gets a little tight. They get a little tight.
Yeah, they want to be racist, but not be called racist. That's a whole other thing. You want to be racist because I can describe who you are, but if I call you that, be like, oh, I am not. I love Jesus, girl.
I am not. I have a Black granddaughter, and I saw something that that someone said that the reason why they don't want history in schools is because the people are actually in the photos. Like, you know, there's photos where these white students are throwing things at little Black babies, and there's photos, like there's actual receipts.
Right,
And
that's your great grandma. Ooh.
they don't want to see their grandma. But you know, that's another situation. But Kimberly, I just want to say thank you for taking time to be on Vegan Pop Eats. And anytime that I can be an asset to you, you just let me know, because you know I'm proud of you. You might not know me, but I'm proud of you. And I just
Thank you.
just the things that you're doing for our community, you should get all of your flowers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me. This has been amazing.
Yes, I will talk to everyone later. Make sure that y'all rewatch this because she dropped a whole lot going on. And we will see y'all tomorrow because I'll be doing another live with another amazing woman. Talk to y'all later.